Welcome, fellow Empire citizens, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of a marathon series playing They Are Billions. This series was originally streamed October 29th as part of a miniseries marathon. If you would like to skip the intro cinematic, please use YouTube chapters, and if you would like a little overview about the game, it can be found in the description of this video.
We will never know what happened. It was more than 2 centuries ago, when those humans sowed the seeds of their own destruction and left us with a legacy of terror. For all of them are now the monsters of our nightmares. How ironic that they ended up like this. I am Quintus Crane, your leader, your savior. I founded the new empire and the city that now shelters you. And now, the time has come to no longer live hidden like rats behind the walls of the great crater. It's time to face our monsters. Time to go out into the world and reconquer it for the glory of humankind, for the glory of the new Empire! Welcome. So you want to be the new general to lead the reconquering campaign? Well, I warn you, my young general, your mission won't be an easy one. How many attempts have there been so far? 10? 12? All your predecessors are dead or have gone mad. Do you really think you can do better than them? Okay, I'll give you a chance. Listen carefully. Our goal is to build new colonies in strategic locations to expand the Empire beyond the Great Crater. I also want you to explore the ancient human strongholds and retrieve any technology from before the pandemic. We will use that to build more powerful colonies. You may also find swarms blocking your way. Destroy them with the might of the Empire's army. But be warned, failure is not an option. Succeed in your mission or never return.
I'll turn this down as soon as I can get back to the menu, but we have an important decision to make. Kalis or Calliope? And I'll read them real quick. Kalis is one of the best soldiers of Quintus Crane's elite brigade. Impressive in size and strength, Kalis never pulls back, as he can easily endure enemy attacks while killing them. Kalis packs the Destroyer, a heavy gun that fires large explosive projectiles. He may be a slow shooter, but he can kill several enemies with one bullet. Or Calliope. Calliope is likely the most lethal of all Imperial soldiers. She is well known not only for her speed in combat, but for her deadly marksmanship. She always carries her 2 own designed pistols, nicknamed the Devil's Sisters. Although her attack range is short, Calliope's shooting speed makes her enemies often die wondering, what the? And it looks like overwhelmingly we're going to go with Calliope. All right, Calliope, here we go.
Excellent idea, sir.
All right, let's fix this. Now it should be kind of normalized. And the first mission is the Hidden Valley. Now in this campaign map, the campaigns will sprawl and fork over to the right, and you build up research points as well. So you guys, the live viewers, are going to be able to decide what maps I play and what research I pursue. So let's start the first here, the Hidden Valley. Well, yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be slowly, and this is in the About command, I'm going to be slowly ramping up the difficulty over time. Personally, I feel like it could handle maybe somewhere between 200 and 300% well enough. But we'll see if I like warm up to the game and can even tackle harder things. So we're going to start at just accessible and work our way up. So Hidden Valley has Empire points awarded about 140 and Science points 120. Our rangers found this small valley on the banks of a shallow river. It is undoubtedly the safest place to establish the first colony beyond the protection of the Great Crater, where the capital city, New Empire, rises. On the map, you will see a mineral deposit that's needed to build Soldier Center to defend the colony. The victory conditions is all of the infected dead, the colony population hit 300, and resist the swarms of infected. The command center cannot be destroyed or infected. That is the defeat condition. I will offer a little bit of my own sort of tutorial as a medium experienced player, no expert by any means, as we proceed. So before I do anything, let me explain a little bit of the UI here. So down in the bottom left is your minimap. Your minimap is particularly important to see certain special enemies on the map that you want to avoid until you're strong enough to defeat. They will allow you to see red dots where the zombies are, which is a good way to catch zombies that are encroaching upon your territory. Next to it is your day and hour. In a lot of the maps, you will have scheduled swarms. So it will be like, hey, swarm's coming on day 14 or day 11 or something like that, and it will progress. So you know when you're going to get hit hard, and you can ramp up and get ready for that. You have control groups, so control 1 through 8 to select units. So if I drag select my rangers and do control 1, they're on now group 1, and I can control all of them together.
Are you sure?
And you can also control unit buildings as well, if you want. I often control unit my my barracks and things like that. Then for buildings, you have your colonists. So your colonists are the heart of your colony. Without colonists, you won't get work done, you won't get taxes, etc. And initially, you just build tents. Then for resources, there's food, there is wood, there is stone. On this map, other maps will have other resources like metal and oil, but not here because this is the starter map. Energy. So around your command center, you have a sphere of influence that you're allowed to build. You'll see it here, where it's the light tiles. And in order to expand your sphere of influence, you need to build Tesla towers. And Tesla towers require wood and workers. And then if you run out of power, you can build mills. Eventually, you unlock things called power plants. And there's also advanced mills, but that just offers power to your colony. Then for military, initially you get the soldier center, which you can train soldiers and rangers. And then for defenses, you have walls, gates, and eventually towers. This map does not offer towers, though. Next to it, you have the command center, which is just where you build, and also gives you information about what the command center supplies. So there's a train that comes with colonists every 24 hours. I have a view range of 16, supplies, etc. It's not that important. Over here is where it's important, below me, right there. The total amount of colonists that you have, the total free work that you have for places of employment, food production, to be able to offer up your colonists food so they can eat, and then energy production. These you need to keep above 0. If you hit 0, you cannot expand. You can only use the resources that you have. And then next to it is your income. So you have, like right now, I'm making 196 gold per 8 hours. And I have a maximum storage of 2,000 gold. One really important thing is that you need to make sure that you're using your resources well. A huge part of this game is expanding your sphere of influence and expanding your economy, because a very strong economy will allow you to afford a very strong defense force, and without one, you don't have the other. So you can't just build a whole bunch of like military stuff and no colony infrastructure with like markets and banks and things like that, because you will bankrupt you and you will die. So a lot of this game is balancing the need for military and defenses with the need for more space, more resources, more economy. And you have to get the balance right, because if the scales tip in any one direction, you lose. And speaking of lose, technically the defeat condition is that my command center gets destroyed, but that is really, in my opinion, not the defeat condition. So what ends up happening is that zombies will attack you. Duh, it's a zombie survival game. But as soon as they attack buildings, like let's say I build a few tents around and they destroy the tent, as soon as they destroy the tent will spill out more zombies. This ends up with one hell of a cascading event, where if you do not protect your core of your society, you will very quickly have your entire colony swept with zombies. Very, very quickly. Once your tents get attacked, it's very hard to come back from that. Unless you have a ton of units with a lot of firepower, it's probably a wipe. So it's one of those games where, like, you really can't let anything slip through. You really can't. You can kind of build in a way that you contain things. You build like walls and have walled cities within walled cities. There was a little bit of strategy to that, and it's kind of challenging to do. I usually do it later on in the harder difficulties, but let me tell you, with the defeat condition being the destruction of your command center, once your tents are gone, there's going to be a holy hell swarm on top of you, and your command center is going to be the least of your worries because everything's dead. It's all dead. Yeah, once you have an infection breach, it's gone. Sort of like COVID, right? Once COVID comes into your country, it's there to stay. Trying to get rid of it, very difficult. All right, so let's get started. So first order of business is to build some tents. The middle mouse button is pretty helpful. When you hit the middle mouse button, it will show you the terrain blockers. So, for instance, zombies can never come in through water, so I don't need to defend the water. They can't pass through trees. Forests are impassable. They can't pass through mountains. There are no... well, there's a little bit of rock here, up there. But yeah, when you're building, you use the middle mouse, or like the... whatever this map mode is called, to figure out if you have any holes in your defenses. Because it's really important to patch those. So, when we are building tents, we don't want to build too close to the forest, because we're going to want sawmills near the forest. And buildings can't take up 2 slots in the same place. Also, when you're building your housing, or tents in this case, you need to make sure that they're pathable. So, for instance, you can't build like a 3x3 square of houses, because the center square, the people can't pass through them. So you're building in somewhat of a grid pattern. Another thing that's going to be useful is, until I actually have a bit of a military, well, this is telling me about pause and unpause. Until I have a bit of a military, it's really useful, in my opinion, to have your initial rangers on a patrol pattern. Now, on this map, this starter map, it's probably not that important, to be honest, but generally speaking, it's important. And I already covered all this, so I'm just going to be ignoring this. This is just telling me about colonists.
Roger that. Okay.
So now we're doing perimeter patrols to try to make sure that no zombies get in. Alright. So we have 3 empty tents. On survival games, your colonists will arrive magically and immediately, but in this campaign mode, they arrive via train every 24 hours. So the train will arrive, and the train also cannot run over your units. It will just displace them. Sometimes it will displace them in weird ways where, like, they get embedded in walls and things, which is weird, but, like, for the most part, you'll be fine when the train comes. So here's another mechanic where in order to gather food, the illuminated green grid is the working area, and they can't overlap. So you can't just have a bunch of fishing shacks next to one another. You have to spread them out. This is one of the things that mainly drives terrain acquisition, because in order to get more food or get more timber or get more stone, you need to then annex more territory, and if you don't, you'll resource starve, and that's pretty fatal. So I'm building a fisherman's cottage and a hunting cottage in order to get more food, because we're down to 4 food, which is enough for 1 tent. And here comes my colonists. arriving via train.
The train has arrived at the station.
And then I'll have more workers to work.
Attention. Building completed.
And initially, a pretty fair strategy is to just try to expand your population as much as you can so you have a lot of tax money. By the way,
Building completed.
Bulgarian, Zalek, Scorpio, Kenneth, Winnie, and Azog, thank you so very much for gifting subs and subbing. Cheers to you all. This is just telling me about the energy and anything that, if you have any questions, use the channel point redemption for ask a question about the game, and I will do my best to answer it. Because I know I'm kind of skipping over the games tutorial because I'm barely literate and I can't read what they have to say. I mean, I literally can, but I usually don't.
Attention.
So I'm just spending all of my gold adding additional tents so that I get more colonists, so I get more gold. It's a feedback loop. And I'm also going to place the first Tesla tower. So one of the things I like to do for the Tesla towers is to make sure that, like, there's no holes in my territory. So, like, if I build right here, I get access to the entire shoreline. If I build here, I'm missing a square. So I'm going to build where I don't miss a square. And the Tesla towers can chain together to add territory. But if the base of the chain gets destroyed, you lose access to everything that it connected to. So Tesla towers are important to guard. Luckily, when they're vulnerable, it's not a big deal because they don't spill out tons and tons and tons of zombies if they get destroyed. Unlike tents. When your tents go, oh boy, everything goes.
Attention. Building completed.
Alright, I'm probably not going to get another fishing shack there, that's fine. So I'll go for hunting cottages. And then I'm going to want to get my first sawmill pretty soon. In order to start getting an income of wood, because right now I have 10 wood and I don't get any more
The train has
over
arrived
time.
at the station.
So as you can see, my income is like almost 100 more than I started with down here because of the population that I've expanded. So when looking for places to put your sawmills, you want somewhere that has good yield. So like over here in this corner, there's 15 wood. That's pretty good income. And just like the hunting and fishing, it has its own sphere of influence where you can't have multiple sawmills working the same area. So this is what I mean by, like, they have to be pathable. I can't build here because if it did, this tent would not be passable. No one would have to be able to walk past it. So I'm going to build my tents like that so that there's room to move around. And pretty soon here, I'm going to need more power, as these tents require 4 food and 1 power per tent. So that means that I'm going to need to build a mill pretty soon. And in order to build a mill, I need more wood, so sawmill comes first, and then the mill goes. Tacos and Sharpie Man, thank you for the resubs, and Bloody Death too. Oh man, what a name. Let's hope I don't experience a bloody death.
Attention. Building completed.
And I could be exploring more with my rangers,
Roger
and
that.
I'll talk a little bit about the
Yes.
combat units. But I'm just keeping them close to home. One of my personal failings as a player in this game is that I expand too fast without actually protecting what I'm trying to annex, and I end up with like colony collapse syndrome. And that usually happens the first like 15 days of a run, and I'm gonna do my best to like avoid that. So mills can't be built. Mills also have their own sphere of influence, and they cannot be built on top of one another. And the default mill is definitely the most efficient power producer. The advanced mills cost a lot more people for the power they generate, and then the power plants cost wood. So the best way to power up a colony is mills, but mills take a lot of space, so you need a very large area to support mills. And as soon as the mill is done, I'll be able to build more houses. There we go. Now, in this initial scenario, there aren't specialty buildings like markets and banks, which increase the yield of tents. But normally there would be. And it would then matter how you lay out your cities. Because in the center of your cities, you want a bank and a market. A market reduces the food requirements for your tents, and a bank increases the taxes for your tents. But on this starter map, there are no markets or banks, so I don't need to worry about that. So now what I'm doing is I'm building Tesla towers to get down here. There's stone in this spot, and I need that stone in order to build a soldier center to be able to defend myself. And then over here, you can see that the next swarm is on day 22. So it's giving me a very healthy amount of time to prepare for it. Right now it's only day 3.
The train has arrived at the station. Attention. Building completed.
And the goals, of course, is a population of 300. And I am at almost 100 now. So we're about a third of the way for the pop. Which gives you an idea of how many tents we need. And you can start to see the zombies like creeping towards the Tesla tower. But the rangers will kill it well before it gets there. I'm not all that worried. In fact, I can send this ranger down to start clearing it manually. Because I'm going to want to build a quarry. Now, there's only one location in this map that allows you to build a quarry, which is right here. So it's kind of an important spot. Every now and then, you'll find these resource packages. You can find food, gold, stone, wood, oil, iron, electricity. And they're really useful in order to,
Great. Okay.
sort of jumpstart your economy. All right, there we go. Got a quarry, getting all of the stone. Now, it's another thing I wanted to show. If you're paused and you build something, you can refund it for free at no cost. But if it's built at all, like this, you only get 50% of what you invested in it. So if you're trying to lay out sort of your city, if you pause and lay it out, you can always make changes, as many as you want, right? I can put as many walls down as I want and then refund it, and I get it back free. But as soon as you unpause, that option goes away. So, if you're trying to min-max your layout, make sure to keep the game paused.
A new task.
It's not necessarily something that I'm going to do very often, but every now and then when,
Is that all?
when I need to pause for tactical reasons, I will.
Great.
So down this way, there isn't anything.
Okay.
This is just where the tracks end. You can imagine, it's a little weird. Honestly, I would have had the train come from the safe side, because the train comes from the danger side, where the zombies come. So there are signs here, and I'll go read the signs. But the signs are like, hey, there's zombies past this point, be careful. Is the TLDR.
Are there other
Hello,
units,
train.
Father?
Building complete.
So, infected roam freely beyond this valley. Do not continue without the proper combat forces.
Okay.
And it says the same
Order
over this way,
prepared.
over the bridge.
Gotcha. Are you sure?
So I'm going to have this ranger
Arrived at the
patrol
station.
this area here, which is going to be the most trafficked eventually. So now that we have an income of stone and an income of wood, what we can do is save up for the soldier center. I get that at 20 stone. So while we wait for me to earn the 20 stone, the back half of the map here, this area here is all completely safe. No zombies will spawn. I no longer need to patrol it.
But it's gonna cost
And
you.
I can have hunting cottages to exploit all the resources back there, because there's no threat. There's absolutely no threat
Attention.
that's going to come this way.
Building completed.
Roger that. Okay.
And we're at the point of the game where, like, we can start laying out maybe some initial walls, so I will do that as well.
Building completed.
You again.
Walls are really helpful to allow your DPSers, like your rangers, fight without, you know, being eaten. So talking about combat units, the ranger is special because it causes very, very low aggro, unless you have a swarm of them. So zombies are attracted to noise for the most part, and sight if they see you.
Are you sure?
And the less noise that you make, the fewer zombies you're going to pull.
Attention.
So if you're running around with something really loud, like a Thanatos, you are going to piss off all the zombies within your zip code.
Okay.
But if you're running around with rangers, you can get away with clearing large swaths of the map,
You are gonna pay me for
all
this, right?
stealth-like, because rangers use bows and they don't make a lot of noise. So my opinion is that rangers are probably the best infantry unit. They do become a little bit phased out because there are some zombie types. These are all just like infected decrepits. They're like weak as hell, slow as hell zombies. But there are some other zombie types that are faster, like harpies and venoms. And I would say rangers are pretty good against harpies, but once you start getting a lot of venoms will start clearing out your rangers pretty quickly and get you killed. So rangers are great up until a point, is I guess what I'm saying. All right, so over here, I'm going to go and put down a wall. As you can see, there is the black areas is impassable, the green areas are impassable, so one gate there will block off all the zombies incoming, and then likewise one gate here will block off all the zombies incoming because they can't cross a diagonal. But if you're worried, I can put a wall there anyway. So this will keep all the zombies out
Aren't there other units to bother?
until there's enough of them to actually break my walls down.
You again. Yeah.
All right, let's continue to expand the population because that's ultimately really my goal. So I'm just going to be adding as many tents as I can afford. Hey, Statistic, thank you for the resub.
Attention.
A new town.
And then once these zombies in here are dead, everything behind these walls will be secured. Because zombies
Yes.
only spawn at map edge,
Building completed.
or there's a special condition where zombies won't spawn at map edge, Villages of Doom, but like there's no Villages of Doom on this map. So zombies really only spawn at map edge, meaning that once I've cleared all the zombies
Building
out,
completed.
we will be ultimately safe.
Attention. Building.
So now I'm just laying out a whole bunch of hunting cabins in order to feed our growing population.
Arrived at the station.
I could build a house here, but if I built a house here, no one could pass by here. I like to try to design it, my housing layouts, so that there's a lot of passability. There's a lot of pathing, because if you make it very difficult to path, not so much on this map, but on other maps, it can be really difficult to react to an invasion
Sounds
if your
interesting.
rangers have to go like an oblong, crazy route around a whole bunch of nonsense because you've like built yourself into a corner. So I do my best to try to avoid situations where like I can't move around my own colony, because if you can't move around your own colony, it's going to be really difficult for you to defend.
Is that all?
So that's a food crate.
Let me put
Attention.
narrow in this
Building completed.
And all the zombies behind this wall should be cleared. And now I also have I have the soldier center. So I'm going to hotkey the soldier center to group 2, so I can hit 1 for the rangers, 2 for my soldier center. And each ranger costs 1 worker, 2 2 wood, and 120 gold. And I'll just queue up a whole bunch of them. And now all that's really left in this map for me to do is to just, like, continually expand my population to meet that 300 threshold and to defend from swarms. Which means, expanding my power grid whenever I need power, expanding the food collection production with hunting cabins, hunting cottages,
My bow
and just
arrows
keep
are
on
ready.
growing.
Attention. Building completed. Attention. Building
Better
completed.
be good.
Stochastic? Got it.
What?
I will try to remember
You are
that.
gonna pay me for this, right? Great. Gotcha.
I'll just call you Turtle. No, I'll do my best. I'm not great with names, but I will do my best.
Attention. Building completed. Attention. Building completed. The train has arrived at the station.
Aren't there other units to bother?
Attention. Building completed.
Once I feel like I have enough rangers, I can also start venturing out and killing the infected, because that is another one of the
My
win
bow and
conditions.
arrows are ready.
Come on. I'm so impatient. I want that Tesla tower now.
Attention. Building completed.
There we go. That's a pretty good hunting cottage. 18 food is not bad for a yield.
My bow and arrows are
Going
ready.
for a billion tents? Yeah, I mean, I'm not allowed to have anything better than tents on this map, so going for a billion tents indeed. It doesn't hurt to double up walls either. Rangers have a range of 6, so like technically you could have 5 layers of walls and your rangers can still attack behind them.
My bow
And then
arrows
you
are
do
ready.
eventually gain access to
This better be good.
towers, where rangers can be posted to increase the range even more.
Attention. Building completed. The train has arrived at the station. Attention. Building completed.
And what I'm trying to do is to make sure that I don't max out on resources,
Attention.
because unless you have a market, which I don't currently own, there's really not much of an advantage to gaining extra wood when you already are full of wood. So that's true of all resources, but I'm trying to use it, because if I don't use it, I lose it.
Attention. Building completed. Attention. Building completed.
And true, you can't do 3 walls because it prevents you, but you could do 2, 2, 2, 2, something like that. All right.
My bow and arrows are ready. You again.
And I'll show you what it looks like outside these walls,
Attention.
This better be
Building
good.
where it's just a whole bunch of zombies,
Attention.
What?
Building completed.
and we can start clearing towards it.
This better be good. My bow and arrows are ready.
We still have plenty of time before first big swarm.
Attention.
Great.
Building completed.
And I'm almost at my pop requirement.
You again. Are you sure?
Another thing that might be good is doubling up the gates.
Building completed.
What? Great. Roger that.
You eventually get access to like stone walls and gates, but initially I don't have those, so having multiple wood gates is a little bit more protection. In terms of technology, if there's steam trains, why are people still using bows? Bows are quiet. So there are soldiers that you gain access to, but soldier guns make a lot more noise and will attract a lot more attention,
Being attacked.
which isn't always desired.
You again. Yes.
They are trying to break through.
I mean,
What?
there's a lot more technology beyond. This is just the starter map. So there's way more tech trees that you just haven't seen yet.
My bow and arrows are ready.
All right, just to make it look nice, I'm going to wall up the back of my city, even though I know no enemies come in that way. I can pretend like I don't know that. But it's safe that way.
Train has arrived at the station.
You again. Gotcha. A new task. My bow and arrows are ready.
Attention. Building completed.
And let's get our pop up to 300.
Attention. Building completed.
Oops. Not there. We'll see how close we get with those tents.
More orders. This better be good.
Attention. Building completed.
My bow and arrows are ready.
You hope I don't get one Zed near my tents or I'll get a super swarm in seconds? Yes. I mean, I was mentioning that that is a threat. I don't have any Zeds behind my walls. I've checked and double checked and triple checked, so I should be fine. Okay, with that food, these last two hunting cottages, that should be all of the food that I need.
Great.
And we've already cleared out all the zombies to the north. Now, they do spawn at map edge,
Great.
so just because I killed all the zombies up this way, it doesn't mean there won't be more at some point.
Okay. What?
Attention. Building completed. Attention. Building
My bow and
completed.
arrows are ready.
And my pop is 286. Each cottage is 4. So the cottages I have built right now let me hit my 300 pop. Can I build multiple soldier centers? I could. I indeed could.
Attention. Building
What's up?
completed.
Any infected?
I don't
around?
usually find myself doing that in games, however, for a few different reasons.
My bow and
One,
arrows are ready.
they take up room.
Gotcha.
2, they take up resources. So if you take a look here, it requires 8 workers to work there. So there's a labor requirement. There's also an energy requirement. Sometimes you just don't have the energy to spare. So there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't have, like, redundant excess, as it becomes really expensive, especially on harder difficulties where there's not a there's not like a very comfortable cushion
Gotcha.
that you can afford stuff. And Scorpio, thank you for the gift of subs again.
Yes.
Now, can I expand north? I could. I could expand if I wanted to, like, all the way up to this line here.
You are gonna pay me for this.
I just
right?
don't need to for this map, so
Okay.
I probably won't.
You order, you pay. My bow
And shield for the resub, all 50 months.
Our forces
damn.
are in danger.
Okay.
Another tactic you can use is you can have one ranger lure,
Sure. Yes.
and then the other rangers fire, like this. Well, alright, they got
Our
less
soldiers
interested in the
are
lure.
trouble.
Which works really well for really big enemies
Sure.
that are very dangerous.
Gotcha.
Another thing is you can have them attack, you can have them patrol, you can have them chase. Chase is something that we would do when there's almost no zombies on the map, because what they do is they just go everywhere, explore everywhere, and kill everything.
Building completed.
Rangers aren't great at chase mode. They can be good on the earlier maps, but eventually there are enemies that you should not chase as a ranger, especially alone. And then there's target priority, nearest or highest level. Rangers, I would generally say targeting nearest is pretty safe, but some soldiers like snipers are really good at targeting highest level, because snipers do a lot of damage to a single target, so you might as well just shoot the strongest thing in the room.
more orders. What? Gotcha.
And yeah, I couldn't have the Rangers lure
Great.
zombies into the train, because the train will run them over. So we've already hit our population, and now I just need to destroy all infected.
As long as you pay me. Okay.
I'll set them to chase mode. It might get some of them endangered, but whatever. It's not a big deal. And even though I've hit the population requirements, like, I'll exceed expectations. I'm okay with that. Let's get another hunting cottage.
Oh, more orders. Yeah. This better be good.
If you also want to select all your units, you can click that button there, and it will pick all the ones that aren't, like, currently deployed into towers.
Attention.
My bow and arrows
Which is a
are
good
ready.
way to, like, just select all, I suppose.
New task. You again. A new task.
Train has arrived at the station.
Population's almost 400.
What?
And we did get a first veteran. So every unit has their own experience. Rangers, when they level up, are particularly strong, where they're basically twice as strong. So let me pause and show you. So here's a... I'll pull them aside. Here's a regular ranger. So they have an attack damage of 10, attack speed of 1.
What do you want now?
And here's a veteran. Attack damage of 12, attack speed of 2. And a slightly farther range as well. So more than twice the strength of a base ranger. Whereas like other units don't tend to get doubly strong. It's just something that the rangers do. So veteran rangers are pretty gnarly. The thing they don't have is a big hit point pool. So rangers get smoked by enemies that hit hard very quickly. That's their weakness. And also, yes, they become blonde rather than redhead.
Building completed.
But be quick.
So, I guess blondes you're better at redheads at one thing. Sorry, blondes. Let's not build that one. That encroaches on the hunter
Better
cottage.
be good.
Although at this point, I'm getting so many boxes of food, I don't really need to worry about hunting cottages.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah, if a ginger kills enough zombies, they become a blonde. That is correct.
Attention.
My bow and arrows are ready.
Canonically correct. A Morton Joe deems it true.
What do you want now? Great idea. No.
So I have them on chase. They're just going to fill up all of the remaining unknown map.
Train has arrived at the
A new
station.
task.
And now my population a full 100 more than I was required to have.
My
Why
bow
not?
and arrows are ready.
Time for me to make Uber Tent Town.
What? Gotcha.
And I think that's it.
Attention. Building completed.
Yep, destroy all infected is
You are
done.
gonna pay me for
Building
this, right?
completed.
Yeah.
So at this point, there's not much reason to be beyond our walls other than,
You
Attention.
again.
Building
Yes.
completed.
you know,
Attention.
messing around,
Building
really.
completed.
Great.
Attention. Building completed. Attention. Building completed.
So just for the aesthetics, I'll double up the walls back here. Actually, I'd hold my wall. Glad that wall wasn't necessary, because I didn't block
My bow
anything
and
through it.
arrows are ready.
Another thing that we could do is we can have sort of a double airlock. So if we do have a breach in front,
Oh, here we go again.
the zombies don't get to rampage, and it's not going to happen on this difficulty. I know that sounds like hubris, but this difficulty is very, very easy. So if the zombies breach the front two gates, I can fall back to a second set of gates, which is a nice design tactic for redundancies. Also, it's worth noting gates themselves are particularly weak compared to walls. So a gate is 3 wide at 600, and a wall is 1 wide at 400. So walls are superior. So if you don't need to leave your base anymore, you don't even really need to use gates. You can just wall up completely, as that will be ultimately stronger than just gates.
My bow and arrows
All right, I need one more hunting cottage.
The colony defenses.
Oh, see? Here's a few that spawned at the map edge that mess with the walls. Cute. Where am I going to put this cottage? Or, you know, maybe I'll just evict one person from our colony. Because, you know, that I could do. Oh, I could put it here. Now, at this point, there's really nothing for me to do other than for me to wait for the day 22 swarm. Why am I building more tents than I have to? Because I want to. It's a pretty good reason to do anything, right? Or so I've been told.
Attention. Building completed.
My bow and arrows are ready.
The train has arrived at the station.
There. Now we are very extra unnecessarily secured. Exactly. I'm grown. I'll do what I want. Don't tell that to my toddler.
You're pay me for this, right? My bow and arrows are ready.
Attention. Building completed.
So on this map, if this was a real map, I'd be choked for food. There are improved food gathering spots. You can eventually unlock farms, which makes a lot of food on fertile soils. So that also is maybe worth me explaining. In terms of resources, when you're playing like a typical survival map, because we're waiting, I might as well just like chime in for extra tutorial stuff. You have different terrain. So you have like infertile terrain and fertile terrain. And fertile terrain can support farming, where the infertile terrain cannot. Now, if you have a map that is full of terrible terrain, there is a special building, which is like essentially a magical super greenhouse that you can build, only one of, which can support a lot of food. But it's very expensive and not likely to be helpful to you early game due to its cost. So when you're expanding your towns, you're going to want to build like blocks around your markets and banks, ideally clustering two town squares together. So you'll have like a market and a market and bank surrounded by housing, and then in the middle of both of them you'll have like an inn. And an inn is kind of like a bank, costs a lot of food, but it will also increase taxes for the people to live around there and allow you to hire veterans. So allow you to hire units that are just instantly veteran, which is kind of nice. So as far as the design idea goes, usually when I'm playing, like, if I'm analyzing a situation like this, I'd be like, man, you know, this map sucks, because, like, there's a lot of infertile terrain, there's not a lot of spaces that can build farms, like maybe one farm here, one farm there, but there's good choke points. So you're always looking on a survival map for, like, where the fertile terrain and infertile terrain is, where it's large enough to support, like, a town square, because you need a nice, wide, open block of area to support a town square. It doesn't need to be perfectly square. You're almost never going to get, like, a min-maxed town with, like, the maximum amount of houses around your markets. I mean, that almost never happens because maps don't have that kind of flat open area, typically. There'll be stuff in the way. There'll be iron or stone or oil or rocks or forests or lakes or just holes in the ground. So, yeah. You're just trying to approach as efficient as you can within reason. So if you're truly into, like, perfect min-maxing, this game is going to drive you a little bonkers, because true perfect min-maxing doesn't really exist. But real estate is indeed very important in the game, because if you are... As soon as you're, like, unable to expand, unless it's really, really, really late game and you have a huge swath of territory, you are then dying. Either you're growing or you're dying. There's just those two. If you're not growing your cities, you are then not getting stronger enough to survive the final wave. So generally how a survival map works is you'll start in the middle of the map. There may or may not be like special zombies around you protecting certain areas of the map, like mutants or giants. I'll get into those later once they are on the map. And then you have resources that you're going to be after. You're going to want to be annexing forests for wood, stone piles for stone, iron for iron, oil for oil, and then fertile fields or shoreline or forest for hunting cottages. But basically, it's a mad rush to obtain as many resources as you can obtain and expand as wide as you can without having gaps in your protection. Because as soon as you have lethal gaps in your protection, you collapse and you're dead. So it's a balancing act. But the reason why I say you have to keep expanding up until roughly I would say the 60 to 75% mark of the game is if you aren't gathering the resources from more areas continually, you won't have a strong enough economy to win. So the way it works in a survival game is you'll have these periodic swarms that come, like roughly every like dozen days or so, and it culminates to a final swarm. And the final swarm is a lot of zombies. It depends on your difficulty, but generally it's a lot of zombies. And they will absolutely crush you if you haven't been preparing for that final swarm the entire time. So if you aren't aggressively annexing territory, exploiting resources, expanding your population, supporting your population with markets and banks and inns, and building a very strong economy to afford defenses, the final swarm will absolutely destroy you. And there's not a lot of learning experience, I would say, as a new player. Like, if you're a new player to this, preparing for your final swarm is a little rough, because the game doesn't have a save... I mean, you could probably mod it to have save skunks, but by default, like, when you lose, there's no, like, loading a save. So you spend like an hour or two preparing for the final swarm, and if the final swarm completely smokes you, you have to play another 2 hours to get to another final swarm. So that's a rough way to learn, I suppose. And if you have any other questions, just let me know. And Baka, you asked like a long time ago, and I somehow ignored it. Can zombies walk through forests? No. They can't walk through forests, they can't walk through mountains, and they cannot walk through water. Which is why my trees are like this. You know, my walls are like this around the trees. And they can also not walk diagonally. So, for instance, let me demo. They can't walk diagonally, so like this is a valid wall. They can't get from this square to this square. It would be impassable to them.
My bow and arrows are ready.
This strategic view is so helpful in the game? Yes. And use it often, because sometimes what you'll have is you'll have like little tiny snaking forest paths, you know, that go through your forest that are like 1 unit wide. And if you don't know about them, oh boy, you're gonna have a bad time. So here's a swarm. We're getting our Day 22 swarm. It gives me a 24-hour warning about the swarm. It tells me the direction that the swarm's coming in. And I have just an insane amount of rangers ready for this, so it's not going to be a problem. Hey, Tufty. How you doing, man? Thank you for the raid. How was playing Void Crew? It's a game that I meant to check out, but then I saw the ratings and was like, I don't know. But hey, do you give it a thumbs up? Or do you give it a thumbs medium?
My bow and arrows are ready. One. This better be good.
The train has arrived at the station.
What? You are gonna pay me for this, right?
Another tip that I can offer up is sometimes I accidentally will double click, and the game will warn you. The command demolish will be applied to all the structure type Do you wish to continue? Hell no. You can very accidentally, when I was first learning how to play the game, I would very accidentally just delete everything at once. I would mean to delete one tent, and I'd click too much, and I'd highlight them all, and I would like nuke my entire settlement. So that's another thing to avoid, because there is, again, no load and saves. So if you do a mistake like that, you're kind of stuck with it. Which is hilarious in a brutal way, or brutal in a hilarious way. Bit of column A, bit of column B.
Oh, here we go again.
So as soon as they arrive, you can see that their attack arrow is here. So we can actually, because I have so many rangers, and I'm just not afraid of this swarm, because I'm on low difficulty, I'm just going to go out and greet them, like this. Now, there is a bit of a reason to venture out of your walls when a swarm's coming, because you can influence the direction they attack. So, for instance, I'll give you a for instance, you'll have to imagine it. Imagine I have a long wall here, like a big wall all the way down like that. But then, subsequently, imagine that I have towers here and no towers there. You can lure them to your tower. Excuse me.
Units under attack.
You can actually use your units to sort of lure them to where you're strongest. Which is a pretty good solution. Plus, you can call their numbers significantly before they even get to you, provided that you're faster moving than they are, because that's not always true. So, there we are. Colony completed. Congratulations, you have built a prosperous colony expanding the influence and power of the Empire. So, I resisted the swarms, I got a population of at least 300, and I killed all of them. Pew pew, pew pew. So, success. Cheers. Thank you for tuning in to They Are Billions, which originally streamed live on Twitch October 29th as part of a miniseries marathon. Because this was part of a miniseries marathon, feedback cannot be incorporated, so there's no need to include it in the comments. But if you have any questions, you may feel free to include those instead. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord and become more involved, a link to that can be found in the description of this video or at Rhadamant.com as well. If you would like to support me more directly as a content creator, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing this content with your friends, or even perhaps becoming a Patreon patron. Link can be found below. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow survivors of the apocalypse.